Part 1. You will hear a man calling a car dealership to ask about a second-hand vehicle advertised in a magazine. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
Good afternoon. Greenfield Motors, how may I help?
Hello, I'm calling because I saw an advertisement in Weekend Living magazine for a secondhand car you're selling.
Of course. We've listed several recently. Do you remember which model caught your eye?
Yes, it was a blue Ford Focus. I think the ad mentioned it was from 2016.
That's right. It's a hatchback with a 1.6-liter engine. People sometimes confuse it with the silver 2015 model we also have, but the one in the magazine is definitely the 2016 version.
Great. I was wondering about its mileage.
It's currently at 54,000 miles. The other Focus on our lot has done over 70,000, so this one is in much better shape.
That sounds reasonable. And what about the price?
The asking price is £6,800. We had a promotion last month at £6,500, but that discount ended, so the magazine shows the current figure.
Okay. And what color is it exactly? Sometimes blue means different shades.
It's a dark navy blue. We do also have a bright red version available, but the ad you saw referred to the navy one.
I see. Could you tell me about the previous owner?
Certainly. It was owned by one careful driver, a retired teacher. Sometimes cars like this come from company fleets, but this one was privately owned, so it hasn't been overused.
Good to hear.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
One more thing. Has the car had any major repairs?
No major accidents at all. It's had regular servicing, and the only replacement was the tires last year. The engine, brakes, and clutch are all original.
Excellent. Does it come with any extra features?
Yes, it has air conditioning, Bluetooth connectivity, and parking sensors. Some people ask about a built-in sat-nav, but this particular car doesn't have one.
All right. And where exactly are you located?
We're on Greenfield Road, just opposite the petrol station. A lot of people mistake us for the branch on Hill Street, but that's our service garage, not the showroom.
Thanks. That's clear. One last question. When would be the earliest I could come and view it?
We're open every day except Sunday. The earliest viewing slot is tomorrow afternoon from 2 o'clock. Morning appointments are only for servicing, not sales.
Perfect. I'll come by tomorrow then.
Wonderful. I'll reserve a test drive slot for you. See you soon.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 1. Part 2. You will hear a speaker giving a talk about the renovation and reopening of a historic town theatre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to see such a good turnout for today's talk about the renovation of the Westford Playhouse, our town's historic theater. I'll take you through its background, the recent changes, and how the public can get involved. First, a bit of history. The Playhouse was built in 1895, originally as a music hall where traveling performers entertained the mining community. Over the decades, it served different purposes. It was once a cinema, and later, in the 1970s, used briefly as a bingo hall. Many people forget that period, but it happened. By the early 2000s, the building was in serious decline. The roof leaked, seating was unsafe, and the heating barely worked. Some suggested selling the site for shops, while others wanted to demolish it for parking. Instead, a local drama group started a petition arguing the town needed a proper arts space. Their campaign gained huge support, including letters from schools who wanted performance opportunities for their students. Now, as to the renovation itself, the funding was a complicated puzzle. People sometimes assume the local council paid for everything, but in truth, they covered only about a third of the cost. Another large share came from a cultural grant from the national government. The rest was raised by local businesses and ordinary residents through fundraising dinners, charity auctions, and even a sponsored fun run. When it came to design, there were debates. Some wanted a modern glass-fronted building, while others wanted to keep the old Victorian look. In the end, the decision was to preserve the red brick exterior, but completely update the interior. The result is a building that feels historic outside, but fully modern inside with proper acoustics and lighting. Let's talk about the facilities. The main hall now seats 400 people. There are rehearsal rooms, a small cafe, and a gallery for local artists to display their work. One unique feature is a flexible stage that can be moved forward or backward depending on the type of performance.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
So how can the community engage? Well, the Playhouse runs weekly drama workshops for children and adults. There's also a program for schools offering backstage tours and acting masterclasses. Volunteers are essential too. They help as ushers, ticket collectors, and guides. Anyone interested can sign up online or at the theater's reception. Another point. Performances aren't limited to plays. The theater regularly hosts live music, comedy nights, and even film screenings. The goal is to make it a cultural hub for everyone, not just theater lovers. Do note the opening hours. The building is open daily from 10 in the morning until 6 in the evening, except on performance nights when it stays open later. The cafe, however, closes earlier at 4. Finally, ticket prices. Standard shows start at £12, though students and seniors get discounts. Certain community events, like school showcases, are completely free of charge. We also encourage visitors to explore the small exhibition area in the lobby, which highlights the history of the theater with old posters and costumes. And if you're interested in behind-the-scenes work, there are guided tours available once a month.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear a discussion between two students planning their presentation on urban transport. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 23.
So, Kareem, we really need to finalize the outline for our presentation on urban transport. Have you had a chance to look at the notes from last week?
Yes, but I'm still unsure about our introduction. You suggested starting with statistics on car ownership, right? The issue is that data is interesting, but doesn't clearly frame the transport problem we want to highlight.
True. Perhaps we should instead begin with a case study, like the congestion problem in central Madrid. That might grab attention straight away.
I like that better. And what about terminology? You mentioned mobility justice several times. I think we should define it because not everyone will know it's about equal access to transport, not about traffic laws.
Agreed. Oh, and regarding sources, I've collected some survey responses, but to be honest, many people just ticked boxes without thinking too hard. Should we admit that as a limitation?
Yes, otherwise it looks like we're ignoring flaws in our data.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 24 to 30.
Another concern, I only focused on 3 European cities. Do you think that's too narrow?
Not necessarily, but we should mention the limitation. If we don't, people might assume we overlooked other cities by mistake.
Fair point. I've also got transcripts from interviews with transport officials. I thought about including them all, but it would take too long.
Yeah, whole transcripts would overwhelm the audience. Better to pick short, powerful quotes to illustrate key arguments.
Good idea. What about visuals? I added 6 graphs, but maybe that's too many.
6 seems excessive. Fewer but clearer charts would be more effective than a flood of numbers.
How should we structure the section on policies? Chronologically or thematically?
Policies ought to be arranged thematically. That way we can group policies under categories like pricing, infrastructure, and sustainability instead of bouncing around in time.
All right. And in the conclusion, I was planning to summarize what others have said.
That won't be strong enough. The conclusion should underline the contribution our research makes to the discussion. Examiners want to see how we're adding something valuable to the discussion, not just repeating ideas.
Okay, I'll adjust that. One last concern. Some of my references are taken from online magazines. Do you think that's all right?
They're better than random websites, but still not strong enough. Academic journals are what really count in this kind of work. Examiners expect evidence from recognized research, not casual articles.
Fair enough. I think the next step is rehearsal. Otherwise, we won't know if the timing works.
Absolutely. Once we rehearse properly, the presentation will flow smoothly from start to finish.
True. And we'll also spot if any section feels too rushed.
Exactly. Plus, practice will make us more confident when answering audience questions.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear a lecture about the Siberian Husky and its unique characteristics. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36.
Today, we'll focus on the Siberian Husky, a remarkable breed of dog. You might know them for their striking blue eyes and wolf-like appearance, but what makes them especially interesting is their history, physiology, and the challenges they pose for owners. Let's begin with their origins. Huskies were first bred by the Chukchi people of Siberia, primarily for pulling carriages over long distances in extremely cold climates. Their stamina, combined with a cooperative temperament, made them essential working animals in harsh environments. When explorers brought them to Alaska in the early 20th century, they quickly proved superior to other dogs in long-distance races. Now, regarding physical traits, Huskies are medium-sized, weighing between 16 and 27 kilograms. They possess a dense double coat that protects against sub-zero temperatures. Interestingly, their fur does not have the oily texture of many water dogs, which means they're less prone to doggy odor, but shed significantly twice a year. Another distinctive feature is their metabolism. Unlike many breeds, Huskies can regulate their energy expenditure very efficiently. In fact, they can run for hours without eating large meals because their muscles switch to using fat stores at a remarkably early stage. This adaptation allowed them to travel hundreds of kilometers with minimal food. Of course, no breed is without health concerns. The most common inherited issue in Huskies is hip dysplasia, though it occurs less frequently than in larger breeds. More notable are eye problems such as cataracts and corneal dystrophy. Regular screening is therefore strongly recommended. In terms of behavior, Huskies are intelligent but also independent. Unlike many dogs that aim to please, Huskies may ignore commands if they don't see the purpose. For this reason, they're often described as stubborn learners. Trainers must use patience and consistency with positive reinforcement, proving far more effective than strict discipline. Another point is their need for activity. Huskies are extremely energetic and can become destructive if under-exercised. It's not unusual for bored Huskies to dig holes, chew furniture, or even escape from gardens by climbing or jumping fences.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 37 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 37 to 40.
Now, let's address ownership suitability. While they're affectionate with families, Huskies are not ideal guard dogs. They rarely bark aggressively at strangers. Instead, they're more likely to greet new people with curiosity. They do, however, have a very strong prey drive, so small pets like rabbits or hamsters are often at risk. Dietary needs are fairly moderate. Despite their size, Huskies eat less than expected, a trait linked to their efficient metabolism. Overfeeding can easily lead to obesity, which in turn increases the risk of joint problems. Owners must therefore be disciplined about portion control. Lastly, grooming. Huskies generally keep themselves clean, and bathing them too frequently can damage their coat's natural insulation. Regular brushing, especially during shedding seasons, is the most important aspect of maintenance. So, to sum up, Huskies are strong, intelligent, and resilient, but they require an experienced owner prepared for intensive exercise, consistent training, and dedicated care. They're a joy to work with in veterinary practice, provided their unique characteristics are respected. And one final note before I finish, remember that no matter how beautiful a Husky may appear, the decision to own one should be carefully considered.
They are demanding companions, not decorative pets, and their welfare depends on responsible ownership.
That is the end of part 4.